The last few decades have seen major reform in the area of workplace policies for women. More women have joined the workforce in the last 10 to 15 years than ever before. But if you look closely, the concentration of women in the workforce is largely in the lower levels of the hierarchy. And as you move up the hierarchy, the kind of drop-off of promotions and women in mid-level roles, senior level roles, C-suite roles and board roles is dwindling. Now, what can be the reason for this? Are policies not good enough or they need to be changed? Or are there other forces at work that are probably hindering the progress of women up the hierarchy? Let's close the loop on this. Joining me on Close the Loop is Sonia Kutty. Sonia is the head of global HR at Quest Global. Sonia, welcome to Close the Loop.
Thank you so much, Srini. Wonderful to be here with you today.
Thank you. So, what I see is that the number of women participating in the workforce is really increased. I think there are many companies that have almost 50-60% women even. But why is it that as you move up the hierarchy, that ratio really dwindles? What do you think is wrong? Is there something wrong with policy, or is there something else at play there?
I think I like the way you introduced the topic and you said, are there more forces at work, so dark forces at work kind of a thing. So I think there are a lot of nuances, that kind of play into it and feed into it. The good part about it is that it's definitely increasing in terms of women, growing. Though I wouldn't say that the rate of increase is as much as what we would desire. There is definitely an uptick. But it's also, I think, it merits or it warrants that, you put a little bit more thought into it if you really want to make a change and make a significant change at that. So to your question, Srini, I think there's more than one reason, okay? And I do believe that society also has a large role to play, okay? What may be the case or the scenario here, say, for example, in India versus what may be the case in another country may also have those nuanced differences, which really makes the play happen. So my impression is there are certain things which are very much cultural, societal in nature, and those manifest in how, each person, each player in this entire drama acts it out, which is one reason why it doesn't happen as we intend it to. Okay?
So tell me, what is the societal pressure? Is it from the side of women or is it the men? I mean, men, are they not sort of being supportive in career growth? What are the societal forces at play?
Let me give you a little story, okay? So I think last week we had a conversation with women of a team, right? And there was this one young, very, very enterprising lady who stood up and said, look, I started my career 4 years back. Since then I've got married and now, definitely the call is, hey, when are you having your child, right? I mean, standard state of expectations.
Right.
And her mother keeps saying, her mother, it's not even an in-law, it's not even like a distant relative, nothing of that sort. Her mother keeps telling her, so when you have a child, you may have to take it a little slow. It can't continue at this pace, you may have to then make a decision.
Right.
Now you imagine the case of a person who is in this situation, who's hearing this day in, day out, right? That becomes part of your reality.
It's a conditioning.
It's a conditioning that happens. You may call it, in another parlance, you may call it as microaggression, right? Something that is said or done, okay? Which kind of makes an impact on you, okay? Even if you are consciously not aware of it, subconsciously kind of builds into your psyche.
What does it do to the lady in question when she hears this? What do you think it does to her?
So then, there's always this backside that, oh, maybe when I have a child, right, I may have to take it slow, I may have to take a break, I may not be able to work as much, right? So there's always that nagging thought at the back of it, in which case you may make a decision either to postpone having a child or decide that, yes, I need to have this child, but I need to then make a decision on my career. And sometimes it's not necessarily with an intention to be harmful or hurtful or put things back, okay? So think of men who think, oh, this lady has a child, she has to take it easy. Don't pressurize her with too much of a higher end job or, with that.
But she may be ready to take on as much as is needed.
So I think the whole crux is, are you asking the person, right? Is the choice residing with the person that, hey, I need a break or I do not want to take up something, I don't want to be posted on to a different platform, project, country, whatever it might be.
Right. So is it also feeding into, let's say, a bias? Like if you're somebody who's trying to take a call on promoting a woman employee, for example, is there an unconscious or conscious bias creeping in that a woman will probably need to prioritize her family at some point of time in her life, but a man may not because he has a woman doing it for him.
Right.
Do those biases play out when the decisions on promotions and
see at a policy level, okay, for policy makers, they know that such kind of biases exist. So a policy would usually try to be on a level playing ground. So I think the crux of it is to see, okay, you are going to encounter it. How do you then support it? How do you make sure that that person has a little bit of more impetus given to cross that rung?
Right.
That's what I think is more important.
I think a lot of policies, they're trying to not force the issue, but they're trying to just hardwire the structure so that if somebody is in two minds, if somebody has this bias that, okay, will a woman be able to handle it? Sometimes the strictures of, let's say one in two managers needs to be a woman is the policy, let's assume.
Okay.
And then that, okay, you need to meet that quota, for lack of a better word. Do you think that hinders rather than helps this whole process? Is there like still a passive aggressive behavior among men to say that I have to meet this quota, but I don't really want to?
This quota thing doesn't necessarily work, okay? Just because I have to have women, I don't think organizations will do it just for the sake of that, okay? There is always meritocracy, which kind of will be the,
of course,
the overarching umbrella. And only under that will also women be, given that chance. I don't think you would choose somebody who's not perfect for the job just because you have to put a certain percentage. That's not how organizations work, because organizations are also here for
performance and
delivery and for delivery, and they have they have to kind of answer to their stakeholders, right? If I know that the society has this thing about women taking a break, etc., you will make sure that people who are either in the maternity process, they are not falling off the curve, right? That they are protected during that
That's
period.
where the biggest drop-off happens.
That's when the biggest drop-off happens, usually, especially from an India context, I will say when the child happens is when people decide, okay, I have to take a step back, because obviously, and even physiologically, there is that part that a woman plays in that entire process. So that's when it happens. But what can, as an organization, you do? You provide that care. You kind of make sure that they are able to return to the workforce.
Correct.
Right? So those things will actually help to make sure that they are still there and they are able to then, cross those barriers. That I think is more important, Srini.
But then why don't we see more women in the mid to senior levels then? I mean, if this is the case and the organizational policies are trying to make it as equitable and people are, let's say, not blocking anyone, why do you think, like, apart from the societal factor, what happens within an organizational dynamic where which is the reason why you don't find that many women in more senior positions?
See, I really think it's what plays out in a life situation. Okay. Sometimes even if organizations are providing that infrastructure, they have that ecosystem which helps women flourish, it may not be possible for them, okay, from a lot of different things. Especially when it comes to either being married or the childcare thing coming in. The unspoken thing is that, okay, this is your role.
Is there a lot of guilt? I've met a lot of successful women. I find guilt is a very big part of their mindset in terms of even though they're successful. They feel like I'm guilty, I can't give time to my child.
I suppose
I'm
it
guilty.
happens.
Is that a big thing?
See, I'll speak about myself, right? In my job, in my career, I find that, the number of hours I spend at work, even when I'm at home, because it doesn't necessarily have like very defined boundaries, right? It kind of extends out. So you may not be able to spend as much time as you want, right? So do you feel that, hey, could I have spent more time? There are different situations where you definitely feel, hey, I kind of didn't do it as well as I should have. Should I have spent more time, etc. But then it's also about what's important to you. And, is it that children, etc. Have you made those provisions that when you're with them, you're able to give that quality time? See, what I'm guilty of really, Srini, what I feel is, Even when I'm talking to my child, especially the younger one, 10-year-old who still thinks I am the world, the elder one doesn't. So, I would be still my preoccupied mind, right? Something running, something in the background, something that needs to be taken. That's when I think the guilt is more. You're not able to give that 100% attention, something running. So I think that I have reconciled myself to the fact that, if I can give 100% attention when in that space, that kind of makes you feel better, if that's advice to anybody.
What is policy making going to look like to solve this problem? We seem to have solved the entry level problem. If policy can help in solving this problem, how do you get into someone's home and, be a counselor, be a guide, be a coach to the family?
Srini, first of all, I don't think two different people are there at home and in the office, right? It's the same person who comes into the workplace as well, the same person who's there at home as well. So if you have a certain reality at home, I can't expect something different to walk into the workplace. Okay, so that differentiation is done. So if you're getting a certain message at your home about how things should be, you are going to bring it into the workplace.
Right.
Even our larger stakeholder group, okay, whether it is the board members, whether it is a customer group, all of them kind of sound, where are the women, what is happening with respect to that? That kind of indirectly feeds into the organization as well in terms of, making sure that that ecosystem is really coming up, right? All that helps. Business is business at the end of the day. And these things really help. When you're asked to table how many women do you have, at every customer meeting, they're asking you, hey, how many women have you brought up into the workforce? Right. That drives it much better than what your HR person or your company policy could do.
So it's that top-down push, the ecosystem push.
Absolutely.
I think now in the board seats also they're mandating a certain number of women to be in board positions.
Exactly. And then even I think, while the trickling up is not as fast as we would want it, not as voluminous as we would want it, but every stroke that we make over there does help. It does help others see that as a role model, aspire to be it. So I see that happening quite a bit in our organization. And I think even as society, hopefully, we will also kind of emerge from there, right?
Sure, these things take time. I mean,
these things take a little bit more time.
Right.
They're a little bit more difficult to kind of, take away.
Right.
But I have never felt as confident as I do today. Okay, just seeing how much of focus is there, how much of attention is there.
Right. So in conclusion, I'll take you back to that story that you started with about this young lady who is ambitious, career-driven, but is receiving conflicting advice from her mother or father. So, what would your advice be to the lakhs of maybe women who are facing a similar situation in today's day and age? What would your advice be for them to sort of build out their career?
My advice, and I have 2 daughters, so I think I would tell this to them as well. I think know that you can have control of your own destiny. At never point believe that you need to give it to somebody else or that somebody else needs to run it. There are certain choices that you have to make, and the earlier you do it, the better. Meaning, you put your foot down in certain instances. I think especially if you do want to get married, I don't believe it's a necessity, but if you do want to, please take a little time to choose.
Right.
Because it's really important who you want to spend the rest of your life with, right? Especially when women get into the workforce, they think they have to be this superwoman, try and do everything well, home, family, children, business, everything. It's not possible. You have to ask for help, you have to get help, you have to pay for help if that's required.
Right.
There is something called self-happiness also. So please invest in it, whether it is getting assistance, asking for help, delegating, whatever it might be. So do that early on. It makes life easier for you.
Thank you, Sonia, for coming on Close the Loop. And I'm sure that there are lots of viewers who will benefit from some of the insights.
I sincerely hope so. And thank you so much for having me, Srini.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.